signal wire to turn the reverse camera on is located in the passenger kick panel, the large white plug. The color is brown with a yellow trace. Tap into that and then patch on your own cable. Run it behind the glove box and into the center console. If you use a fishing rod, it makes it a lot easier. I'll show you the fishing rod a bit later in this video. To activate the camera, I'm also using a 12-volt relay triggered by the reverse signal, which is the same one that switches the touchscreen to reverse camera mode. Here I'm pulling through the RCA cables. It's a twisted pair. One will be carrying the 12 volts that the camera needs to operate, and the other will be carrying the signal back. It's quite fine to use such a small gauge of cable, as these small cameras don't use a whole lot of power. If you don't believe me, check out the Power over Ethernet IP cameras that are all the rage these days. Here you can see the fishing rod in action, and it's really good for pulling cables through tight places where you just can't get your hands, and it also assists because you don't have to disassemble lots of plastic paneling. Here the cable is being fished underneath the B-pillar without having to remove the trim. It's a much simpler operation. Here I'm taking out the side plastic. There is a screw in the top behind that clip. There is a screw in the bottom behind that clip. And then there is another screw in where the tonneau cover clips in. Then just give it a bit of a pull and all the little clips will pop loose from the body. Just like that. Using the fishing rod, we don't need to remove that panel all the way. Just reach in behind the plastic there, push the rod up, and then grab it on the other end. There's the fishing rod again. And just reach down, grab the end of that fishing rod, and it helps if you pull a silly face. Here's the RCA pulled all the way through, ready to go up into the roof. We'll be zip tying the cable to the factory harness right here. And here's the tools that we're using. Channel locks, Phillips head, and here is the fishing rod. This fishing rod has been made out of a 2-foot long zip tie with the head cut off. There's 4 plastic clips across the bottom of the trim that all pop loose, and then inside the handle for pulling the lift gate down, there's a little cover. It's tough to get out, but there's another screw located underneath that. You need to remove it as well, and then the whole thing will pop loose. Now you need to remove the sides of the top trim because there's a screw at the top of that bottom panel that needs to be removed before the whole thing will fall out. So now we undo the screw on this side and the whole thing will fall loose and hit you in the head. Undo both sides, give it a bit of a jiggle and make sure that the plugs up at the top have been undone. Now we need to remove the rear trim piece on the hatch. So if you have a look, there's a number of holes, and inside the holes are 10mm nuts. Undo those 10mm nuts. Now I'm not sure if I needed to do this step, but I also removed the wiper motor. And on the side of the trim are these large 10mm nuts. Take both of those out. And then the whole lot should pop loose with a bit of finesse. And here I'm taking off the wiper arm to remove the wiper motor. Once again, this might not be necessary, but I'm pretty sure that there was a 10mm that was hidden underneath the wiper motor assembly. So just pop the wire loose and move the wiper motor out of the way. Now we're undoing the connector for the cables that are going into the trim piece that we need to remove. Those are for the lights that are over the license plates, and now we can just finesse the panel out. It's a bit of a tight fit because there's rubber gaskets in behind there. Just be gentle with it and try not to bend the plastic, otherwise you will damage the paint. Now I'm just going to mock out where the camera is going to go. This little guy was about 20 bucks off eBay. So using a paint pen I mark the drill holes, and I also mark where the cable is going to come through. This is the factory position for the Subaru original part, and you can see where the marks are for the factory one to be installed. So if it was good enough for Subaru, it's good enough for me. Here's the 3 marks, and here's the drill. You don't need a lot of drill speed because the plastic is pretty soft. We'll go straight through there. And now for the channel for the cable. Peel off that little rubber bit. And then grab the drill the initial hole through, and then just push away from yourself, and the edge of the drill will bite through the plastic. Here I am enlarging the slot for the cable to go through. Just give it a bit of a squirt on the go and pull it towards you. Be careful doing it because you don't want to go ruining the panel by accidentally drilling a gigantic channel through it. Now the cable fits through nicely. The surface has been cleaned, so now we can remove the backing from the double-sided tape, stick the camera in place, and then attach it with the 2 screws that were included in the kit. These are self-tapping screws and they'll bite into the plastic really easy. I used a 1.5mm drill bit by the looks of it, so that there was plenty of meat left for the threads on the screw to bite into when tightening it down. And just be careful when you're doing this not to over tighten the screws, otherwise you'll strip out the threads and then the camera will fall off one day. Okay, now that that's mounted, we just need to get the cable through the grommet. The grommet is in fact inside out, so if you cut off the plastic that holds it onto the conduit and then roll it back the correct way, you should be able to squeeze through your power connector and RCA socket without too much difficulty. And then once it's slid through, grab your 3M tape, tape that rubber grommet back into place. And here I am turning the grommet back inside out. With that done, just tape the signal and power cable from the camera to the factory loom there for the license plate lights. And there we go, it is ready to reinstall. Now the process for installation is the reverse of disassembly, and be careful that your car doesn't bite your fingers off. So pop that back on, put the wiper motor back in, do all the screws up, put your plastic trim back in, snap everything back into place, and we are done. And here's the camera working. vehicle's put in reverse, it switches itself on.